Welcome to World News. I'm Randolf, Jamias for the latest stories. At least 5 people were killed on Monday when a twin propeller plane crashed as it tried to land in bad weather in the eastern Congolese town of Goma. The airline said. CAA, the airline operating the Fokker 50 plane, said 5 crew members were killed while another was still missing after the crash. The flight was arriving from the town of Loja, some 700 kilometers to the west. Democratic Republic of Congo has one of the world's worst air safety records. Government spokesman Lambert Mende earlier said 9 people had been killed in the crash, but he later confirmed the figures provided by CAA. Next up, an alarming news is happening in Bolivia. The Andean glaciers are discovered to be melting and could soon disappear in the year 2050. Here's more.
Bolivia's Chacaltaya Glacier, situated in the Cordillera Real mountain range. In just 11 years, it went from this to this. Scientists like researcher Edson Ramirez are discovering unprecedented ice loss in Andean glaciers. He says some are likely to disappear by 2050.
We now know that from the 1980s to the present, we have lost 43% of the entire surface area of the Cordillera Real.
Ramirez says the statistics are conclusive. The world's largest concentration of tropical glaciers is melting because of climate change. But how have scientists been able to make their predictions? It's due partly to satellite data, transformed into high-resolution 3D images, which clearly show a loss of glacial cover when compared to images taken in the past. The ice loss is blamed on an average temperature spike of 0.7 degrees Celsius over the past 70 years, a trend Ramirez says is bound to continue.
The glaciers, as such, are excellent indicators of climate change. Therefore, these drastic changes that we are observing are clearly showing us that there are already significant changes in our ecosystems, and therefore we need to begin to prepare ourselves and take action to adapt.
And according to Wilson Suarez, a glaciologist in Peru, preparation is all important. He says glaciers 5,100 meters and lower have already vanished, and he predicts those between 5,300 and 5,400 meters high will also melt in the next 30 to 40 years, with potentially devastating consequences. Suarez says entire cities which rely on glacial water in the dry season could simply disappear. Ronald Woodman, president of Peru's Geophysical Institute, agrees.
Muchos de los ríos de la costa dependen, sobre todo en el estiaje.
Many of the coastal rivers, especially in the dry season, depend on the water that comes from the melting of the glaciers, and these will disappear. The flow of the water in the dry season from the rivers is going to be much lower, if not zero, in many of the valleys in Peru.
Cero en muchos de los valles en Perú.
Scientists believe the Andean glaciers have reached a tipping point. They say reversing the thaw is an unrealistic prospect. The question they're now asking is, how can communities successfully adapt as their main source of water melts away?
Moving on, in Denmark, a professor at Copenhagen University has designed a device that will be able to control and clean up pollution in the air. Let's find out more from Professor Matthew Johnson in this story.
Belching factories are a leading cause of air pollution worldwide. And with EU emission rules being tightened, European businesses face a tough task to clean up their act. Copenhagen University Professor Matthew Johnson believes he has part of the answer, an atmospheric photochemical accelerator system.
This is the control unit for the emissions control system. Here on my right, we have the ozone generators, and we have the system for controlling the lamps here on the left. There's also some pumps that are moving water through the scrubber.
Johnson conducted 6 years of trials in these aluminium boxes on top of the Jysk Mill industrial plant in Aarhus. The plant, which recycles oil taken from bilge water in ships, faced years of complaints from neighbours over the smell it produced. But now they say the air quality has improved. Johnson's mechanical unit, co-devised by technological firm Infuser, speeds up natural atmospheric processes to clean the air within seconds, ridding it of pollutants and smells.
The basic idea is that we need to accelerate the natural processes that remove pollution. And we do that by adding some ozone, we add some artificial sunlight, some UV lamps, and we start to oxidize the pollution. And when these molecules become oxidized, they get stickier, so they make a little droplet. And then we put an electrical charge onto that droplet, and then we use that charge to drag it onto a filter plate.
With no mechanical filter necessary, energy is saved and large quantities of air can be treated. Johnson says the units are easy and inexpensive to maintain and can be retrofitted inside existing air cleaning units. He says that in factories of the future they could potentially replace chimneys. In conjunction with other pollution control systems, Johnson believes the popularity of his device in Aarhus can be replicated in industrial areas around the world.
And talking about controlling pollution, one sure way to eliminate it is by using renewable source of energy. E-cars are fast becoming a trend and solution in saving our nature. Let's head to Croatia for their own e-cars.
Croatian firm Docking hopes to lead the charge for the next generation of electric cars. Its new three-seater, the Lux, is a departure from the company's core business, building robotic landmine clearance systems. Docking owner Vjekoslav Majatic says it's the firm's expertise in mining precious metals that inspired the new venture.
We've
developed electric machines designed to operate in extreme difficult conditions for the use in platinum and chrome mines in South Africa, for which we had to develop controllers, electromotors, battery control system and power supplies. And from that core business of ours, we simply took that knowledge and experience and put it into some kind of boyhood dream, to create a Croatian-made car.
The Lux's chassis is made of hardened aluminium, while its body is composed of carbon fibre and Kevlar, a high-strength synthetic material. And inside, Majatic says the dashboard layout features all the gadgets an urban commuter could want.
The car is designed as a city vehicle for people who can afford it and who drive on their own in city traffic, but so that they don't have the feeling of travelling in some poorly equipped car.
Powered by two magnet synchronous motors, the Lux is capable of reaching speeds of 100 kilometres per hour in just 7 seconds. The company says it can travel 200 kilometres on a single charge. The car, composed entirely of Croatian-made parts, will be made to order, costing around €50,000 each. Docking hopes to go into production later this year.
In other stories, Mexican artist Pedro Reyes is converting instruments of death into instruments of music, with a new project that is transforming firearms into guitars, flutes, and drums. Reyes has transformed some 6,700 firearms seized and decommissioned in Ciudad Juarez, once Mexico's most violent city, into a collection of musical instruments which he terms Imagine. Reyes has sawed off gun barrels to different lengths in order for them to sound like marimbas, while he has turned other pistol parts into cymbals. Reyes said he wanted to create something good out of all the bloodshed and insecurity that had plagued Mexico in recent years. The decommissioned weapons used to make the instruments were handed over to Reyes by the Mexican government last year in Ciudad Juarez. Imagine is a continuation of an earlier effort called Palas por Pistolas, or Shovels for Guns, in which weapons donated in the violence-plagued Mexican city of Cualican were converted into shovels, with which trees were planted. Let's turn to sports news. Frenchman Nasser Bouhanni won the first stage of the Paris-Nice cycling race on Monday to take the overall in his debut year at the so-called Race to the Sun. A total of the 184 riders started the 184-kilometer route from Paris' outskirts of Saint-Germain-en-Laye to the finish in Nemours. French riders Romain Sicard, Yannick Talabardon, and Dutchman Bert-Jan Lindman were leading the breakaway group when Portuguese Rui Costa, France's Tony Galopan, Argentina's Lucas Heido, and Samuel Dumoulin were involved in a multiple crash. Sicard could not keep up with Talabardon and Lindman, while prologue winner D.G. Godin stayed with the peloton and eventual winner Bouhanni. The two pacesetters were caught by the peloton with just 20 kilometers to go, and Bouhanni came from behind, launching a sprint to win, just ahead of Italian Alessandro Petacci, who came second, with compatriot Elia Viviani third. Buhani expresses delight with his first victory in his debut year at the race. And in tennis, McEnroe and Ivan Lendl renewed their rivalry on Monday when they played in an exhibition match in Hong Kong to launch World Tennis Day. The match started a day of celebration for tennis, which will culminate with Rafael Nadal and Juan Martín del Potro playing in New York. The two former world #1 players, who have 15 major titles between them, rekindled their 80s rivalry, but also showed they are still capable of playing some special tennis in the match, which McEnroe won 8-5 in a pro set. Following McEnroe and Lendl, on court were current women's top 10 players Caroline Wozniacki and Agnieszka Radwanska, the latter running out a 6-4, 6-4 win of an entertaining match that even saw the players dancing with each other during one change of ends. For our last story, an adorable 3-month-old polar bear is enjoying her popularity at Buffalo Zoo in upstate New York. Here's why.
She's only 3 months old, but this little white wonder already has adoring fans. The polar bear cub is the latest addition to the Buffalo Zoo in upstate New York. Zookeepers have named her Luna because she was born on a full moon. But that could soon change. A naming contest is being held on Facebook where the public can make suggestions for her formal zoo name. The Buffalo Zoo is just one of 2 zoos in North America to have a polar bear birth last year. They hope to raise $4 million to complete funding for a new Arctic exhibit that would feature daily live video footage of Luna.
A really cuddly creature. And that ends the stories. Thanks for the company and see you again.